Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Spiritual Journey podcast. My name is Nimesh, Radia, and I'm your host. I always love starting every episode by saying thank you. I feel so blessed with this podcast, the impact it's having, the people it reaches, the messages I get on a regular basis. It just lifts my soul. So thank you if you're a regular listener. I met somebody recently at an event, and she heard me speaking, and she recognized my voice, and she's been listening to the podcast since 2021. And we're like, so the universe is so kind, so beautiful. So thank you for your regular listener. Welcome if you're new. We love getting feedback. So if there's any feedback you have, please let us know. We love what we get to do. And to quick intro for me, I'm an Akashic record reader, Akashic trainer, podcast host, podcast creator, and spiritual coach and mentor. And I love guiding people on their journey, either through the mentorship program, through the podcast, through Akashic Records. I just love what I get to do. And I was guided to do this. I left the corporate world a few years ago. Actually, it's nearly 2 years exactly since I left the corporate world. So, and I love what I get to do. So thank you for being here. Thank you for your support. And this podcast wouldn't be where it is today without my beautiful and stunning co-host, introducing the amazing, the stunning, the healer extraordinary and published author, Stacey Brown. Stacey, over to you. I got to do it. Some things don't change. I feel like audience, are used to it now. So, yeah.
I know, it's every time, and it makes me laugh every time. Friends, it's good to be here. My name is Stacey. I'm an intuitive. I do readings for people from around the world. I am also an Akashic record reader and a spiritual coach and mentor. And I'm in awe of being in this space that we get to use our voices in the way that we do to reach people from all different parts of the world who are on their spiritual journey. I'm passionate about helping people, and I do it in so many different ways, as does Nimesh. And I think the biggest thing that we want to convey is that we're here to support you on your journey. We do this because we're passionate about healing and reaching more people with our voices. And so if the sound of us resonates with you, book a discovery call and spend some time with us. And maybe take a deeper dive into who you are and why you're here. I also have a book called Journey to Soul Center, Discovering the Gift of Surrender, available on Amazon and Audible. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done to write this book. I had somebody just ask me the other day, was that just the most amazing thing to write a book? It was one of the hardest things I've ever done, but I absolutely feel like it's meant to help someone. And so if you feel prompted to check it out, I would love to support you in any way I can on your journey. Nims, I'm looking forward to getting into it with you today. How are you doing?
I'm good. So am I. And that's a really good reminder. I always talk about what we do near the end. But yeah, please do reach out. We have so much going on. So many different ways you can support. We have the the full moon webinar, which is free, 90 minutes, coming on February the 1st. You get a different experience with me and Stacey. We dive deep into current energies and we pull cards. You probably heard the episode where I share the meditation that I do, and also the joint Akashic message that me and Stacey do. But being there live is a whole difference. So do join us. I have a membership. I also have a retreat coming up. So if you're in the UK and you're not too far from Glastonbury, I'm planning a 3.5 day retreat in Glastonbury around spring equinox. There's so much we have going on. So please do reach out. We really do try and make ourselves accessible. So, and I really want to, I really want more of that interaction with with our listeners moving forward. So please reach out. We'd love for you to hear you. So we always pick a topic, certainly with mine and Stacey's episodes, around what we're feeling with the current energy. And, we always have a debate. And just to give everybody a heads up, we always do a grounding before we begin. A grounding, you probably heard me do it, and I do it occasionally on this podcast, but just allows us to release anything we're holding on to. And just for whatever reason, this episode, it was a deeper grounding, and then Stace felt the nudge to open the Akashic Records. So we opened the Akashic Records. One of Stacey's guides, Stella, came through. So, this episode maybe feels a bit more intense than others, but and what we're talking about is when love feels heavy and we don't know why. And the reason we picked that topic is it's what it kind of feels like right now. Energy feels really heavy. And, with some of our relationships in the world, there may not be anything wrong. Everything could be feeling fine, whatever fine means. But it feels like everything feels heavy. So we want to dive deep into, when love feels heavy, we don't really understand why, because there may not be any conflicts or whatever, but there's definitely learnings. There's definitely lessons. And why do we always look for something wrong to be in a relationship? What if we expand without pain? What if the heaviness is a sign that the relationship is getting deeper or shifting in some kind of way? We just felt it was an interesting topic. Bear in mind, I talk a lot about this phase still being completion. I feel like the next phase we're moving into is going to be new beginnings. I talk a lot about, really looking at the people in your world and asking, is my soul contract done? Also, we talk a lot about creating your soul family, whatever that means, right? So I do, so this topic feels like really relevant right now. So before we begin and before I ask Stacey to jump in, let me ask you all listeners, how do you feel about the relationships in your world? Certainly, let's take the 5 main relationships in your world, and it could be partner, family, friend, work colleague, whatever that may be. But if you were to feel the energy and the vibration of those relationships, do they feel heavy? Do they feel dense? Have you asked yourself recently that, is my soul contract with this person coming to an end? And yeah, is there any relationship in your world which does feel heavy, but there's nothing necessarily wrong with it, but it just feels heavy. It feels like it could be coming to an end. It could be maybe an expansion coming. Who knows? It's always a good question to ask. So, Stacey, let me ask you: how does this topic feel to you when I ask you that? What does it mean to you when love feels heavy and you don't really understand why?
I mean, I feel like I'm navigating a new season in so many ways. And for me, the heaviness of love feels like an anxious feeling, can feel overwhelming. The opposite of peace. Okay. The exact opposite of peace. And for me, I've had to really turn inward and look at the relationship that I have with myself first and make sure that that's okay in order to navigate the relationships that feel heavy. So I feel like I've turned inward a lot in trying to navigate the heaviness. And I don't know if anybody else can relate to this, but this kind of feeling of like crawling under a blanket or curling up in a ball, that feeling of wanting to hide because a relationship feels heavy. But when that happens, I find that nurturing myself gives me space to listen to my intuition as to why it feels heavy. And I think that awareness is amazing, to know that something feels heavy. But then what do you do with that? And maybe that's my question to you, Nims. Like, when it does feel heavy, what do you do with that?
It's a really interesting question. Because sometimes I feel like our need to understand why it's heavy actually makes it feel heavier. And sometimes it's heavy because you're feeling heavy right now. And it's an interesting balance, right? And, when we try and analyze or fix the heaviness, what if there's nothing to fix? But having said that, that doesn't mean I'm suggesting that you don't try and look inward, become aware. And you become aware by asking those questions. Like I said earlier, what is this soul contract here to teach me? How is it expanding me? Is the soul contract done? And if there is no clear answer, then don't make it up. But also maybe feel the heaviness and just ask, what is it? Because sometimes it's just heavy. But sometimes it could be grief. Other times it could be your intuition giving you a message that either this relationship is going to get more intense or maybe it's come to an end. And it's such a difficult balance. But I mean, this spiritual journey is really interesting because there's always a pressure to try and fix things, to try and heal things, and it is a balance. So sitting with it and asking, how is it serving you? What does it mean? Even asking, is this grief? Is this my intuition telling me that something's coming? Could also be something in some of the other person's energy. But if you don't get a quick, a quick response or a, intuitive hit, how does that make you feel? Are you okay with just allowing it to be heavy? Or is there always going to be a need to try and really understand it and to go and fix it? Because
And
there's
does it feel
power in
heavy because we're trying to fix it?
that's the thing. How do you feel if if you don't need to jump and fix it? Are you okay with that? And what if you fixing it? Because sometimes we create problems, right? We're feeling heavy about a relationship and it must mean something. And then we go searching and we then manifest a problem that doesn't exist. It isn't necessarily black and white. I do feel the heaviness is a lesson. It is a message, but the message could also be to do nothing and to let things come through and understand. There's no rush to understand it. There's no rush to fix it. Because, I mean, Stacey, would you agree in this spiritual journey, we're always kind of putting ourselves under some kind of pressure to heal something, to fix something. And sometimes the message is just to be. How does that even make you feel?
Yeah. And I think that that's the hard part, is the just being and having radical acceptance of what is. I feel really weird about sharing this publicly, but
Stacey, you're going to be vulnerable. It's the only way you're going to be. I love it. Do it.
yeah. So, oh my gosh, like I'm so private about this. In waiting for my visa when I was intending on moving to the UK, I needed to give up my condo that I was renting, and I moved in with my daughter's father. And I made that decision thinking that I was going to be here very short term. And then I made the decision to not go to the UK and to be here. And I am still living with my daughter's father. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because it has felt very heavy for me in the dynamics of the situation that I'm in right now. It's felt very heavy. Even with my daughter, it's just felt heavy. I wasn't expecting to be here. I was expecting to be in the UK, and there's a whole different dynamic in my life than what I would have ever expected. And I have felt the heaviness of this relationship, this dynamic for quite some time. And yet, I know beyond a doubt that I am where I am supposed to be right now. Like the universe has shown me in so many ways that right now, this is where I am. This is temporary, but right now, this is where I am. And I've had to have this radical acceptance of what is, that for whatever reason, this relationship dynamic is here, and that I'm meant to be here in this. And so I think that part of it has been resistance, Nims, on my part. The heaviness comes from not accepting what is. And I'm lucky enough to have an amazing co-parenting relationship with my daughter's father. What a blessing that is. But instead, I've been feeling the heaviness of what I thought was going to be my life is not what it is right now. Right? And allowing myself to be guided by that heaviness instead of accepting this is where I need to be right now. Stop thinking about 10 steps ahead. In this moment, this is where I'm meant to be right now.
And you've just kind of encapsulated a lot of what people have. It's our expectations and the struggling to accept. Because we all know there's a shift coming, right? We can all feel an energy shift. We can all feel that there's something going on. It's like we're impatient. Most of us are impatient. I'd fully hold my hands up and say, I'm impatient. I want to know. I want to know what's coming next. But, it's the acceptance, Stacey said it really well, accepting that we are exactly where we're meant to be. And what if the heaviness is just heaviness? And your situation, with your ex, what if the healing is happening behind the scenes? What if we can't see it? And do we need to see it? And what if just seeing the blessings that we have in our life instead of the expectations, because it's our expectations of what we thought our life is going to look like that make us frustrated. But again, what if the universe has a life plan for you, which is so much more different, and who decides what's better or worse, but so much better in theory than what you had planned? And what if that the work is being done behind the scenes? And there's so many layers to what is happening right now. We just, in full disclosure, we're recording this on Tuesday 20th. It's day after the new moon. I always, new moons normally bring like a fresh energy, but in honesty, I felt really heavy over the last few days. I feel like the planet is going through a real heavy shift, and our nervous systems are feeling tired. And it's also our expectations of, where we thought we were going to be. It's a new year, and new year brings pressure. And, where are we with, on the 20th by New Year's resolutions? Probably all gone out the window. So it's like normally when we record an episode, it's a clear message of, kind of working on yourself. And of course, self-care is important, and I'll talk about that in a second. But this episode is, if love is feeling heavy in a relationship, accept there might not be anything wrong. Accept the other person might be going through a shift. Accept that maybe there is a lesson there and you've got to sit with it and integrate it. Maybe accept that maybe the relationship that's been heavy is coming to an end, or is becoming, has a new beginning. Accepting all of that, and also accepting maybe there isn't an answer right now. It isn't a black and white, life isn't a black and white situation. Every situation is different. Actually, it's also why we encourage you to allow us to mentor you, because this is what we do. We help you to understand your soul contracts and, your programming and becoming true to your authentic selves. We never tell you what to do. We guide you to you. And I do feel with the current energy, it's a beautiful time to get a mentor. So if it's not me or Stacey, then, manifest the right person for you. And do you have space in your world for new souls to come in? Do you have space in your world for people to come and hold your space? Or have you filled your space and energy with souls that are not holding your space anymore? And as I said earlier, it's like, we're so tired. I'm so tired. I can't talk about everybody, but just clients I talk to, and there's a real heaviness. There is our nervous system is tired, is fatigued. It is because the planet is going through a shift, and our energy, our vibration is needed to help shift the planet. And we're tired of closing cycles too, right? I certainly am anyway. So, but then I come back to, and I said I'd mention it, but self-care comes up in every single episode. And the reason it does, it's such a big part of our spiritual journey. Looking after the vessel for your soul, time in nature. I know the weather's off in a lot of places right now, but time in meditation, time, if you can't go in nature, then take a bath. But basically that time gives you a really strong, solid base. And then from there, you can then start asking those questions. If you don't have a solid base, then you're not giving yourself a foundation to really shift. So Stace, how are you feeling right now? Do you feel that, when I talk about being tired of closing cycles, and, do you feel that right now? Is that what you're feeling too?
I wouldn't say I feel tired. I would say I feel a need to spend more time, like intentional time, independently right now. I'm navigating a whole new season, and I think a lot of us are, in different ways, whether it's a new job or a new relationship or some kind of a shift in the dynamic in your life. I think a lot of us are experiencing change. And, I decided to go back part-time to a salon to do hair and Reiki. And it's been very different being around other people in person versus on Zoom. And I think there's just a heaviness to the newness of all of these relationships that I'm forming, right? They're unfamiliar. And so it can feel a little bit overwhelming when everything is new. So there's a heaviness in that way. But I feel like so many of us are scrambling for the relief from the challenges that we fail to stop and take a closer look at ourselves and nurturing ourselves and loving ourselves and creating that space for peace. Because I think that, like I said earlier, when relationships do feel heavy and they feel challenging, I think sometimes it's a call to turn inward and to reevaluate who's around you. You know, I don't feel that we should be in a state of those close relationships feeling heavy on a consistent basis. I don't think it's healthy. And so I think taking the time to turn inward and really evaluate what's happening with those relationships is super important, because maybe you're being called to release a relationship, right? I mean, sometimes, Nims, don't you think that's the case?
100%. This is what I'm saying. The message could be multifaceted, right? Maybe the message, I do feel like we've been called to create space in our world for new relationships and new souls to come in. What you said before is I also feel like we've been pushed and encouraged to get to know ourselves, spend time with ourselves, and how do we know what we want in love? And if we haven't taken time to really get to know this version of ourselves, and it could be, that's the saying, it could be anything. It could be there isn't a black and white answer, and sitting with yourself, getting to know this version of yourself, and also being in meditation, nature. Get to know this version of you. Ask, what do you want? What lifts your soul? What do you need? And do you have the souls in your life that are nurturing, that allow you to be you? And what if the heaviness isn't because there's something that changed in your relationship with this other person, whoever it may be? What if you're different? And what if what you want is changed? And what if your heaviness is because you're going through a shift, you're going through a rebirth? And what if it's all about you? And I do feel that's true for a lot of us. I feel like we're getting to know us. So, taking that time, I feel, is really important. What do you want? Have an honest conversation with yourself in the mirror. Take time to go on a date with yourself. Go and spend time with you. And if you struggle to spend time with yourself, then that's a sign that something needs healing. Because how can you want somebody else to spend time with you if you're not willing to spend time with yourself? Just staying connected with yourself, feeling your energy, your vibration, falling in love with you is so important right now. Getting to know you is so important right now. But also, being present whatever's happening in your world, and knowing that it's happening for you, not to you. I feel like right now the veil of amnesia is so much thinner, so we have access to more information as to why we're here, and I feel like our ancestors, our guides, are much more present. So this is a beautiful time to be here on this planet. And yes, it may feel heavy, but what if it's powerful? This phase doesn't mean that love is failing or fading or anything's missing. It really is a phase of transition. And it's just, like I said earlier, sometimes we create problems that don't exist. What if this is a phase to do nothing? And again, I know that we're giving mixed messages here because everybody's story is different. And your answers are in you. So what is your intuition telling you right now? If you felt one relationship in your world and you asked, okay, is my soul contract with this relationship done? Is there still expansion work to be done? Is this soul contract coming to an end? Is this soul just should I just allow it to be? And allow it to evolve into whatever it's meant to? There isn't a black and white answer. But this phase doesn't mean that love is failing or fading. I feel like we're more loved now than ever before, but it may not come in human form. And how does that even feel? Maybe the heaviness isn't the heaviness from your relationships. What if the heaviness is coming from a deeper relationship with your guides? just it's a really, really interesting and powerful time. And just allowing yourself to be and to love yourself. Stacey, what are you doing to integrate and kind of manage this phase, to be present, to get to know you? I mean, your life and your world. Actually, ever since I've known you in the 5 years or whatever it's been, it's always kind of felt like it's been a transition. There's something new, and it's like your expectations of right now in January probably be in the UK, but actually you're exactly where you're meant to be, and what are you doing on a regular basis to just be present, to get to know this version of you, to let go of your expectations? What are you doing for you?
I'm so glad you asked that, because that has been a common discussion right now with clients as well, asking, what do I personally do? And for me, I do a lot of writing. I'm passionate about journaling, and I absolutely feel that it's great to have people to bounce things off of and to be able to have conversations with friends and family about things that we're facing. But there's nothing like sitting with your own thoughts and feelings on paper and connecting with that. And so I've been doing a lot of that. I also meditate, probably not as much as I would like to, but my favorite thing to do right now that I'm in the salon, I have a commute to work. And my favorite thing to do is to drive in silence and allow myself that space where I'm just connecting with my thoughts for like a good 30 minutes. And I have found that it is bringing me a lot more into the present than I have been. And I'm just being as intentional as I can be, right? Like we both have said, we're just going to keep showing up, doing the best that we can to be, and I'm trying to do that in all the ways. And especially when relationships around me feel heavy, I think that's even more of a call to turn inward. So if you're in that space right now where you're feeling challenged by a relationship close to you in some way, I would encourage you to take some time and space to turn inward and figure out exactly what's going on with you and what that relationship might be mirroring back to you or trying to teach you. And then figure out how you're going to make peace with yourself, because then it has a ripple effect on those relationships.
I love that. Everything in your external world is a result of something in your internal world. And, like I was saying earlier, sometimes we go looking for problems, right? And for me, I feel like this is our biggest test. I feel like this is our biggest trust fall. Are we willing to trust whatever's coming next, knowing that the plan is shifting in such a way? Are we able to let go of our expectations of what love should look like, or where we should be, and take a trust fall and just trust whatever's coming next? Like I said, I soul chose to be here this time, and it's a test. And what if we're not meant to know what's coming next? What if we just given little glimpses of what's coming next? How does that make us feel? Are we willing to accept that? And when things feel uncomfortable and when things feel heavy, are we used to, again, part of my language, are we used to blowing shit up? And this is a beautiful time to journal. It's beautiful time to meditate, because your answers aren't going to come outside. Don't go and Google for stuff. Don't, I talked about in a previous episode about ChatGPT or AI in general, and I feel like it can be part of our spiritual journey, but it shouldn't replace doing the hard work internally. It shouldn't replace healing the inner child or whatever that may be. It's just because you still have to do the work. But trust you. This is a time you're being asked to trust unconditionally. And are you willing to do that? Of course, look at the relationships in your life and, let go of those that no longer serve. And another interesting one is blood family. I feel like have so many conversations where people ask me about blood family and soul contracts, and it's again our expectations of what the love of a mother should feel like, the love of a father, love of a brother, love of a sister, a friend. But what if it's your expectations of what that love should look like that is stopping you from moving forward? It's an interesting time. And the more that you can be present, the more that you can feel your energy, your vibration. And as Stacey said, spend some time, driving, walking without listening to anything. We always want to be doing something. What if about a walk in nature or a drive is just that? We don't need to be listening to, be on the phone, be on a podcast. What if we just need to be? How does that even feel? And how do we feel about waiting? Trusting that meaning will come over time, it'll come later. Are we impatient? This is a time to love yourself. Be compassionate by yourself. You're not meant to fit in. You're not meant to conform. This is a weird time where something feels off. It's because you're shifting. It's because you're changing. It's because you're evolving. It's weird. I was just about to say I love this time, and I was like, well, do I? I'm excited about this time. Not sure I'd say I'd love it because it is uncomfortable. But what if we're meant to be comfortable feeling uncomfortable? And always remember that everybody else is going through something too. You're not alone. I feel like we're moving into an age of community. So look for safe spaces. Like I said, if you're available on full moon, we love the full moon. I'm obsessed with the full moon. I find it so healing. But join us on the first. Just if you're in the UK, join me on the retreat. Just join the membership. There's so many beautiful ways to look for communities. But I come back to this is a time for you to be compassionate to yourself. But do be conscious about how you're spending your time. What are you watching? What are you feeding yourself? Who are you spending time with? I feel like it's really important. And spend time with you solo. Go for a drive and listen to nothing. Listen to your thoughts. Have a conversation with yourself in the mirror. Be compassionate. Be loving. And Stacey, you know what I'm going to ask you, right? Any final bits of advice? Any journal prompts that you have for our listeners?
So I would say the first thing to ask is, do any of your relationships feel heavy? If they do, maybe figure out which one or which ones feel heavy and take a closer look at why. And then I also want you to take some time to figure out what your self-care is going to look like. Because I do believe that if you're churning about a relationship, more than likely you need to turn inward and take some time for yourself, to be yourself, to figure out who you are and what you want. And so take some time, do some writing, see what comes up. I encourage you to take this journey, go a little deeper in your self-discovery.
Go a little deeper on your self-discovery. I feel like we've been going deep for so long. I love it. I remind you of soul having a human experience. There's no bypassing having the human experience. There's no accelerating it. So just be present. Be present in who you are. Be present and bask in the glory of all the work that you've done, and you've come so far. And what if this is a phase of being of integrating, just being? What if right now you don't need to understand what the weight means? What if it's enough to be present in who you are and trust the clarity will come in its own time? How does that make you feel? When I say to you, you know what, you'll get your answers, you'll get your insight, you'll get your awareness, but it'll come in time. How does that make you feel? Does it make you feel uncomfortable? Are you willing to wait? Are you willing to trust? Or is the inclination to blow shit up such a strong invitation that it's something you're going to do? But I do encourage you to look for those safe communities, look for that safe space. Our message today has really been clear. Get to know you, spend time with you, but also spend time in those spaces that nurture you. Be selective about it. Time is the other conversations been coming up recently is about time. It's just time is going so quick, and it also feels like it's really slow. And this is an interesting time that you chose to be here. The transition is crazy, and it's powerful. I'll be posting this on the 26th. It's again closer to February. Where we have the Chinese New Year, the year of the Fire Horse, happening on February 17th, spring equinox on March 20th. There's a lot of energy shifting over the coming months. If you follow the astrology, again, there's a lot of planetary shifts happening. And it just feels really intense. Be present for it. Know that you're meant to be here. Know that your light, your energy, your vibration is needed. Stacey, I love spending this time with you. I always find it expansive and flowing. Before we close, anything you want to share? Anything that's in your heart?
I am just looking forward to seeing how this episode makes an impact. And I want our listeners to know how grateful we are for you. This space wouldn't be what it is without you. And so no matter how long you've been listening to the podcast, we're glad that you're here. Thanks for being a part of this episode. Thanks, Nims.
Thank you, Stace. I'm sending everyone so much love and light. And, last bit of encouragement, reach out if we can help. Like I said, join the full moon webinar. I'll include all the links and show notes. But be gentle with yourself. Do something for you today. Do something that lifts your soul. Do something that allows you just to be. Get to know you. Spend time with you. We love you very, very much, and we're sending you the biggest hug. This is a phase, and it really is about getting to know you in this phase. Sending you the biggest hug and sending you so much love and light. Stacey, again, thank you to you. We'll be back soon. Bye for now.